Nile that is in the heart of Arua city, and that covers Western Nile sub-region, Acholi sub-region, Lango sub-region, Teso and Karamoja sub-regions. And we are also live and clear on another radio station that is Magic 100 FM that covers all central parts of this country. And we are also live and clear on Voice of Individual that covers western parts of this country. And we're also streaming live. You just put UBC in Ground Zero and be part of the conversation. Ampaida Amon of Tega is my name, and I welcome you to this important edition. We're going to be looking at something that is very important, and we are going to be diving deep into an issue that is shaking the very foundations of our society. We are talking about the pillar, or those significant pillars that we as a country, we as a society, we as human beings, we as believers. I know we are in the Easter, by the way. Yesterday it was a Good Friday. I want to wish you all the best and this Easter for all you who are Christians, and even those who are not Christians. I do believe that we believe in one Creator. So we're going to be looking at quite this crisis that is loud, and looking at its consequences, especially looking at more decadency, which has led to so very many things. Our moral sense of right, the sense of right and wrong. We are talking about, more importantly, how do we find our way back? Many people say that we have been lost, and we are still lost. I would say sorry to this kind of generation. We are talking about a generation that is lost. We are talking about people who have no interest in our communities. We front our individual satisfaction, that community service. We talk about how do I benefit as a person, as most people think and talk about here in central parts of this country. So we're going to be looking at how we have a very special team of guests in the studios of UBC that are going to be guiding us on this complex and urgent challenge, and we're joined by a very powerful team. And in the studios of UBC, I have a preacher. I would say she's not just fighting corruption, but also she preaches to the hearts and minds for those who would love to change. I do believe that have been able to change and be transformed to be better leaders, to be better citizens, but also be better mothers, sisters, and brothers. And we drive this country we call Uganda. And this is Dr. Patricia Chanokiria, is the deputy IGG in this country, and I would also want to recommend the good work that the Office of IG is doing, especially in promoting integrity, but also fighting this bad vice we call corruption, which has watered down all the achievements that we would have realized or we have achieved as a country. And I also want to congratulate you. I do believe and learned that yesterday, one of the significant institutions of learning in this country, just in this country, but in the world, awarded you some award, which I would love also to congratulate you, and join many of global citizens to congratulate you, because you're looking at how many millions and billions of people in this world to be recognized. That means that you have a significant contribution, especially in the community, not just Uganda community, but the global community. Welcome, Dr. Patricia.
Thank you very much, Amon, my brother, Butega and Peire, for having me this morning. And good morning, listeners. Thank you for congratulating me when I was humbly blessed and awarded a prestigious honorary doctoral award yesterday at the 3rd Eastern Central Southern African graduation by Zoe Life Theological College, USA, Philadelphia, in the African campus. And many people have been congratulating me, but I've also had people critiquing that kind of award. But it is not just about the award. It's being recognized for the work we do, the sacrifices we make, especially in Christian missionary work in our country and even in fighting corruption. So that is about the award. But talking about this subject today, I come before you here today to talk about a paramount issue in our society, which is moral decadence, as Amon has introduced already. This challenge has permeated various aspects of our lives. It has eroded even the very foundations upon which our communities are built. So, as Deputy Inspector General of Government, I believe that tackling this issue requires a collective effort grounded in strong moral principles and values, and even commitment to the ethical leadership approach. When you look at moral decadence, it is basically the decline in moral standards and values, which has led to behaviors that undermine societal cohesion and even ethical conduct. In Uganda today, we witness this decline manifested in various forms of corruption, dishonesty, lack of accountability. People are forging academic papers to get into positions of responsibility, and the erosion of family and community values. This decline poses a significant threat to our societal fabric, economic development, and even national identity. Just imagine this person who is treating patients and yet he has no qualifications and competencies in that area. Just imagine this person who is operating in the theater and has no qualifications and competencies. What then happens to the patients? So I'm here by reminding us about the significant role of leadership. We've got to clean this society, we've got to clean this country, and as leaders, we bear a profound responsibility to uphold and exemplify moral conduct. Leadership is not simply about holding that position of power, it is about inspiring others through our actions, through our decisions. And we must role model or demonstrate integrity, accountability, and transparency in our work. How do we promote these ethical standards? Because to combat corruption or to combat this moral decadence, we must reinforce ethical standards across both public and private sectors. And this involves establishing clear codes of conduct, promoting ethical leadership, and ensuring that individuals are held accountable for their actions. Unusually, when we're in the countryside, we have constructive dialogue with technical people in the districts, in the municipalities, in the cities, and we tell them about the danger of corruption. We tell them about the negative effects, and we remind them about their responsibility to uphold these values and moral standards. Because we know institutions must foster environments that prioritize honesty, fairness, and respect for the rule of law. Unfortunately, in some districts, 2 weeks after we have left, there are culprits we get from those same districts. And then the same person who was preaching integrity is then sanctioning arrests of people or asking the authorities to have them interdicted and so on. So it calls for a lot of action on the part of leadership. We need, first of all, to concentrate more on education and awareness. And that is why we take this approach of having to dialogue, engage with them in this constructive dialogue, and reminding them of their responsibilities in promoting transparency, accountability, and anti corruption. Because we know that education plays a significant role in shaping the values of our society. And we must invest in programs that instill moral values in our youth and encourage critical thinking among the youth. Today, people are taken up by AI. People no longer think. They know that the AI is supposed to have answers for everything. Promote moral education and awareness, which guides future generations towards responsible and ethical behavior. And this is why, again, I find myself involved in the integrity campaign with the young people, because we've got to win them to ourselves and contribute towards changing the mindset of the people out there. Then we also have to be part of community engagement, because moral decadence cannot be addressed by the government alone. It requires active participation of all citizens. And this participation is not through lamentations. This participation, communities must come together and advocate for moral standards, engage in dialogue, and hold one another accountable. We need grassroots movements that empower citizens, citizens who can be able to stand against corruption and even the unethical practices within their neighborhoods. Then, when you talk about families, we need to encourage support right from families as well, because the family unit serves as the first line of moral education for individuals. If I do not teach my children values and principles and Christian standards to uphold while they're young, we must support families by providing resources, programs that emphasize values, respect, honesty, and responsibilities, because strong families create strong communities. And by nurturing these foundational units, we can be able to combat the decline of moral values, because we see corruption happening because of degeneration or decline of moral values. We should also encourage transparency, accountability, because over times we note that a culture of transparency is very vital in combating moral decadence. So it is essential that we actually get to cultivate systems that promote open communication and accountability in government and other institutions. And citizens should feel empowered to report unethical behavior without fear of reprisal, knowing that their voices will be heard, will be respected, will be valued. And we've seen citizens coming to the office to report these incidences of corruption, and we've been able to take action. So when we tackle the challenge of moral decadence in Uganda, it is a shared responsibility. It requires a holistic approach. It requires our collective commitment and action. And as leaders, as educators, as families and citizens, it's important that we unite to promote ethical values that instill a culture of integrity and also inspire the future generations to come to uphold the moral standards that define us as a nation. Because I believe if we are together and united in this, away from the lamentations, we can build a Uganda that embodies the principles of respect, accountability, ethical conduct, and ensure a brighter future for all our citizens. So that is what I would talk about as the opening and beginning conversation on moral decadence.
Interesting. Thank you, Dr. Patricia. And we'll get back to you, especially on updating the country about the exercise that your office of IG have just concluded. That is declaration of wealth declaration, and would have to get your perspective, how the exercise was. Did you achieve your target? And if there are some challenges, how best do you look ahead to address them? If the opportunities, how best can Ugandans always be encouraged to always declare their worth? I'm glad that we are joined by another important guest. Is part of us as UBC Ground family, and that is Godfrey Duchi, is the evangelist. And I'm glad that we are in Easter, and we cannot really down the significance and the role that is played by evangelists like you, and is the team leader from Nile Legal Missions, joining us today on UBC Ground Zero again. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We're talking about tackling the challenge of moral decadence in Uganda, and I do not know how you really perceive this, and how do you think it has affected the church, how it has affected individuals. From your point of view, how has this graduated to affect the communities, but also as a country we call Uganda?
Okay. Thank you, Brother Amon, and my sister, who I'm fond sharing. The issue of moral decadence did not just come at once. It didn't just happen overnight, but it's something that uh, has been going on slowly by slowly from generation to another generation. I was thinking about it last evening, and I was looking at the generations before us. There are things, we have what we call Gen Z, the Generation Z currently, which was produced by Generation X. Generation X, I think, are those people who were born 1965 to 1990, around there. And then Gen Z comes on after that. But before them,
Learning from the millennials.
not millennials, I think there were others. There's a generation called baby boomers from 1945 to 65, around there. Those people, when they were growing up and when they were raising children, they were different. There are things like my sister was sharing when I entered. The society, the community, the families regarded morals highly. They were disciplined children. They disciplined everyone. They taught. I was even remembering some of the things that they taught us. There were stories which never existed, but which were helping us to think deeply. When you do this, this will happen.
But had an impact.
Yes, when you do this, this will happen to you. When you do this, this will happen to you. And you would believe it because the elders are telling you, and you are a little child, and you only have to believe. But you realize that those were things that we were brought up, told, and then they shaped us not to think about. I remember when I was a little child, there was a banana. We still have those bananas that are joined together. And they would tell us that you cannot eat those two bananas alone. You have to break into two and then give one banana to a friend and then take the other. Because when you take them, you will produce children who are Siamese twins. And we are scared. Oh, when we grow up, we'll get children who are like that banana. So you have to look for a person, take the other one. But that was teaching people not to be greedy, but to share what they had. That's why I said it wasn't true, but it shaped us to share with the others.
Yes.
And there are many other things they taught us on sharing. And the church as well. As a church, we are teaching things concerning morals, and the Bible is all about morals. Love your neighbor, share with what you have with those people who don't have, care for one another, bear one another's burden. Don't be greedy, don't be selfish, don't do what. I think I was teaching the youth recently about the things. There's what called joy. It's called joy. And they say joy, Jesus first, others next, self last. And you should be concerned about the needs of others before your own needs. Think about others. I grew up, I think there's a time I was telling my children, I said, when we grew up, my father was always insisting, do not be an inconvenience to anyone. Don't inconvenience people. If you are talking to people, don't inconvenience them. If you are with people, deal with them. Think about others. Respect them. Don't inconvenience. At one time, no, they shouldn't be an inconvenience to anyone. So I was mindful about the people that surrounded me. But today, things have changed. I think those are the things our fathers taught us that we have not taught our children. And that's how things begin changing. People today are self-centered. All these things we are talking about, corruption. Corruption is selfishness. You think about yourself, your needs, and don't regard other people who are affected by your action. You find that people, okay, for example, you are given money to help some people, and you choose to take the money and use it for your own family and yourself. Now your children will not know where the money has come from, but they will enjoy the benefits as a family, what you have brought home. But later on, there are many people who are affected by your action. That is self-centeredness. And I was looking at even our Kampala. I always talk about it. When we are driving, you see selfishness on the road. Someone is coming and you block him. And you want to pass. You want to have your way. You don't even regard who is around you, who is in the right lane. I was telling my son was driving. He said, hey, these people are driving recklessly. What? I said, you know what? When I was in a driving school, they told me, consider everyone mad. You are the only one who's sober. So everyone around you is mad. You have to work out your way to stay safe. Otherwise, if you think they will think about you, they will crush you on the road. So it is all about selfishness. And we are raising this generation, Gen Z, and the people who are coming after. I'm sorry, it is not getting better, because we have these children where they are being raised by a family. They treasure them like a trophy, and they don't discipline them. The people at home don't talk about them because it's my only son, my only daughter, my only child.
My last born,
my firstborn, the only, like that. Even I was seeing teachers disciplining the children, and then the parents go. I saw it in Gayaza. Parents go and almost want to beat up the teachers. We had a good school here where my children used to go, and I think the parent was an Indian, and the child did something, and the teacher was almost beaten in class by a parent. So this is how we are raising them, and then if you say I'm untouchable, if you touch me, you don't know who my father is, you don't know who my mother is. Now we are spoiling a generation, and you cannot discipline them. She was talking about how the community used to share with the people, and you do something, you will be beaten, and you go home, and they say we have beaten him because we found him playing football in the middle of the road, and you go home and you are even beaten. Because even once you have
somebody don't want to mention, because by the time
She was looking at children as everybody's child. And it is that discipline. You get to school late, you get caned. Papers have come and you're below a certain point, you're caned. You're chewing gum in class, you're caned. You're talking in class, someone has written your name down, you're caned. It was very normal, and nobody would want to fight a teacher over that. But that raised up children with discipline. Today, everybody's talking about their rights.
Teachers would be attacked for not disciplining children.
Yes, but today, on the contrary, the children are talking about their rights. If you touch anybody's child, the parent will definitely come to fight you. So it is a thing we need to work on to revive. And like my brother Duchi has explained, it is something that we need to put our minds to cause this mindset change, so that we go back to our roots and say, but what is it that made this generation a bit different and they're more responsible?
I was going to put that question to you. Where did we go wrong? Where did we lose our moral compass?
Well, I think we allowed for the infiltration of all policies and foreign principles and doctrines in our country. And we have gone ahead and drafted some. And now, because we have put a rope on our neck. But when we talk about enhanced accountability, it starts from home. It is time for we, the parents, to wake up and cause a change. Recently, we were, the Uganda Law Society was voting for a president. And indeed, if you see the majority of the members of the Uganda Law Society today, the other age group my brother was referring to,
the Gen
Zs, where our generation, we are now few and we're all seated and wondering, but what is the decision here? And indeed, they overwhelmed us and they voted. We all voted. But at the end of the day, if you see the quality of the person, the quality of the person we got to be the president of the Law Society, it is really, really quite challenging and remains wanting up to today. And a category of lawyers are into lamentations, but majority of them are like, yeah, that is the person we need. That is the person who represents us. So it remains a very, very big challenge for this country today. If it comes to electing, and we're electing a leader who will not represent the interests of the majority, it remains very, very questionable. So we have challenges with moral decadence in this country, challenges which we need to tackle, especially during such a time at Easter, when we reflect on the sacrifice Jesus Christ made for all of us at the cross. It's like a time for us to reflect and wake up and look at the significance of it during this time, and it provides an opportunity for us to explore even how values embodied during this religious observance can intersect with the fight against corruption, and how, because Christ made the sacrifice, we can cling to that sacrifice and try to emulate it, especially in respect to principles, values, integrity, honesty, accountability. Because when we look at integrity, again, Easter basically symbolizes the resurrection of Jesus, who lived a life of integrity and truth. So for Christians, Easter is a time for us to reflect on our moral responsibilities. What are my moral responsibilities as a mother at home? What about my moral responsibilities as a Deputy Inspector General of Government? What are my moral responsibilities in the different spaces I serve in and represent? So we need to promote the value of integrity, which is very fundamental, especially in the fight against corruption in our country today. So as individuals, we embrace the teachings of Jesus because we are encouraged to act with honesty in our personal and professional lives. We're encouraged to resist the temptations of corruption. We're encouraged to stand as exemplary and demonstrate this exemplariness to the people who look up to us as Christians. And if we can do that right from home, if our own children can look up to us, then I believe we would have started that conversation to instill moral integrity in our children. Then, in respect to issues to do with self-sacrifice, even for the greater good, like I said earlier on, it's not a time for us to be into lamentation all the time, because when you look at this principle of self-sacrifice, which was demonstrated by Jesus, it is a powerful lesson, especially in prioritizing the greater good over personal gain. Today, people think about me, myself, and I, and this selfishness is what promotes bribery. This value of self-sacrifice can inspire public officials and citizens alike to prioritize even national interests over these self-seeking or self-serving actions. Encouraging selflessness and service to the community can lead to more accountable governance structure where public servants act in the best interest of the people. You did talk about the Declaration of Wealth, what exercise we just concluded in the Inspectorate of Government. The Declaration of Wealth went on quite well because the law expects leaders of a certain category to declare their incomes, assets, and liabilities in a bid to promote good governance against corruption, in a bid to promote accountability and responsibility, in a bid to build trust among the people the leaders are leading. Now, when you bring it back to our season, the Easter season, it calls for a deeper reflection into accountability. We are encouraged to assess our actions and their consequences. For government officials and citizens, this means taking responsibility even for the actions we take, particularly those in positions of power. Emphasizing accountability can help to mitigate this problem of corrupt practices as individuals understand that their actions have got repercussions as well. So, going back to the declarations, we were doing this exercise as the Inspectorate of Government under the theme of enhanced accountability through wealth declaration. Now, the Leadership Code of Conduct encourages all leaders to declare their incomes, assets, and liabilities as provided for within the law. And the objectives of this code is to provide for minimum standard of behavior and conduct of leaders and public officers, and also to require them to declare and to put in place an effective environment or mechanism for breach of the code and to establish a tribunal. Now, we did disseminate this information in the countryside, and then we were able to receive a number of declarations from leaders. Actually, this time we were expecting to get about 95% response, but we scored 90. Leaders responded very, very well. And our responsibility or our role in enforcing this code is basically to receive and verify, to investigate alleged breaches, to make reports on breaches and prosecute the breaches before the Leadership Code Tribunal, and also collaborate with other agencies in enforcing this code. So what is happening now is doing the verifications. After receiving, we do the verifications, and then where there are red flags within the system, we pick on those and investigate and prepare those files for submission to the Leadership Code Tribunal.
What happens to those
prosecution.
that do not into the call of your office and did not take the initiative to declare their worth?
Well, those who did not declare basically will have
That
breached.
is also moral decay on their side.
Yes, they will have breached because
immorality.
the Leadership Code Act says the breaches for non-declaration of any incomes or liabilities by a leader is punishable within the law. False declaration by a leader, you have got 7 houses, you've declared only 2, that is also a breach. Late submission of declaration and also failure to submit a declaration. So you find that there are a number of breaches within the code and offenses also within the code. So failure to comply with summons from the tribunal later on also becomes a breach. And there are penalties within the law. They vary on each breach and it is determined by the Leadership Code Tribunal. Penalties include fines, cautions, demotion, dismissal from office, warning, forfeiture of benefits obtained, or even imprisonment. So there are a number of breaches within the code and there are a number of penalties within the code. But participation, we scored 90, and now the leaders who did not declare or failed to declare for some reason, we will have to handle on case by case, summon them to the office to explain, and then later on submit these files to the Leadership Code Tribunal in a bid to promote this accountability and responsibility. Then maybe I will conclude with the aspect of building trust in government. Because during this Easter, we are celebrating values. The values celebrated during Easter can basically help us also to rebuild trust in government institutions. Many a times we get people critiquing us even when we feel we are working extremely hard as the Inspectorate of Government and other anti-corruption agencies. When leaders and citizens alike uphold values of honesty, selflessness, and integrity, it fosters an environment where people feel confident in their institutions. But you find that there are some citizens who have lost that confidence. So in this period of declarations, we are basically encouraging leaders to walk the talk, to promote this tenet of democracy, to encourage that citizens get to know who they are, how much they own, and build that trust, because trust is essential for effective governance and even for combating corruption. It encourages citizens to report malpractices. It encourages citizens to engage in constructive dialogue with authorities. It encourages the citizens to be involved in issues which affect them. So Easter encourages these citizens basically to even gather communally and reflect on these shared values. And this spirit can be harnessed to mobilize people against corruption. Like we have said, the fight against corruption is a people's war, and the people must be encouraged, or the people must participate. And we have seen the people participating by reporting the cases to the Inspectorate of Government, because we would like to foster open dialogue through ethical governance and collective action, which can empower our citizens to advocate for transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption, even within local governments, by creating a unified front against corrupt practices. Yes.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Doctor. And I'm glad that you were able to at least score 90%, which is very good. And I do believe that going forward, many Ugandans, especially the public officials, will call and come through for that, to declare the worth in that we can promote integrity and fight this vice we call corruption. Let me get to you again, Evangelist Duchi. You're also in one way or the other fighting corruption. When we preach to especially the followers of Christ, when they come through for our services, in churches, in conferences, in workshops, but the critics that say that church is preaching prosperity over morality. How do you balance messages of hope with calls for repentance and discipline? We have more often seen those officials that we call corrupt, when they get that money from their swindled from government, which was supposed to take care of medicine in the hospitals, roads, and when they take it in their own way, they are given the front seat in the church. And one wonders the role of the church, especially in fighting these bad values in society.
Yeah, I would say as much as we can, the Bible calls us teach the word of God and teach people. First of all, morals are part of Christian teaching, and the entire world has adopted those teachings from the Bible. Even if they are Hindu, you are either the Hindus, the Muslims who don't follow the Bible. There is a way they follow certain moral standard, and it is acceptable. Even I told you before, even the Bibles came in Africa, morality was very, very highly respected, and people emphasize being more, being moral in a way that you live with others. But the church you mentioned of the people stealing money or diverting money or corrupt people coming to the church, and then we give them front seats. I think that one, I wouldn't say the pastor or the reverend would say this one is moral, chase them away. For the Bible tells that whoever comes to me, I will no wise cast out. If you come to God, there's no way you will say, for you are immoral, you don't have a meter that you put on the people like the way we are doing during COVID, where they have that gauge and they take your temperature. They say you are not allowed to join the people. So we can't.
But at least you have some yes, especially in the community when we have the IG report, the Auditor General's report, we have newspapers, and you know that Ammon has been appointed to be corrupt. And then the next Sunday he goes to, it is now Easter, you're going to have many of them come through for services. And guess what? The messages that we're going to be expecting in church is all of prosperity, not so much of the morality. And we have seen churches that have gone political, but we have not seen preach against this kind of moral decadence. Yet it is one way that is eating our society.
We are in an age of materialism, where people are materialistic. Even the church emphasizes that, and we are like, for example, I even see in our own country, they have talk of wealth creation is going on, and the churches have diverted to wealth creation, and they have discarded the issue of morality, which should have been the point. And sometimes, going back to where you were talking about people giving a front seat, we have hope that I would prefer that if those people, we have hope that those people who are corrupt, when they come to church, they take a front seat. It is biblical. Jesus visited Lazarus. Lazarus was the most corrupt person. And you remember he did not say that man is out, is a what? Is everyone in the community, like we have mentioned. I think he was in the newspapers, he was on radio as a tax collector who was very corrupt. And when Jesus came in, he says, Lazarus, I'm going to spend my day with you. I'm actually going to your house. You don't need to be in a tree looking at me as I pass, but I'm actually coming to your house. And we know that the whole story changed when Lazarus went home down and Jesus went to his home. Lazarus, just by the mere visit of Jesus in his house, and they sat on the table. And then there was a conviction in his heart, and he said, you know what? I have cheated. And I've cheated many people, and here is the money I've cheated, and I'm giving them even with the interest. He went and got all the money he had stored for himself and gave others. So
is it the right time now, you evangelists, start visiting these corrupt officials in their homes?
When we get them in church, I think it's a very good opportunity for us to hear that message. I am only it's sad. The sad part is that when they come, we expect money out of them. It's like share the root, which is which isn't supposed to be the case.
And that bring the proceeds of corruption.
Yeah, so that's where, but we cannot tell them go away. Coming to church is a good thing. Giving them a front seat is good.
Constructing the church is good.
Yes,
there are projects.
But the problem, the whole truth, the truth is that even if you build a cathedral by yourself, it will not take you to heaven as long as you are a thief, you are a sinner, and you are not changed and you are not transformed in your heart. And that's a message which people who are preaching the word should emphasize. Talk the message, speak the word of God as it is. Whether people are offended, continue with what God has called you. Easter is another celebration that is so interesting because Jesus died for sinners and died for all of us. But he did not die that we may enjoy sin. He died that we may be saved from sin. He was there was the only way. The Bible says that there was no one who would have saved us. We were hopeless and wretched, and were to be condemned, and we had no future, we had no hope. And Christ died. That's why they say that when we are hopeless, Jesus did what? Died for us. So by his death, we are saved. By his death, we have redemption, and God, we can reconcile with God. That is the message people should pick out of Easter. But you are going to find people tonight, people are going to sleep in the bars. Tomorrow, because Monday is not working, people are going to sleep in the bars and they will sleep on the road, and a lot of immorality. There are people who are going to catch AIDS. There are people who are going to steal. I was telling people that nowadays security is high alert because they know we are celebrating Easter, and people are going to steal and rob others because they want to go and also celebrate Easter. That's where it loses the meaning.
Security is tight outside, but it's losing our hearts inside
Yes.
of us.
But then, like my sister was talking about, I wanted to go back to the point. Japan, they tell you children from baby class to primary 4 around there, they don't teach them. They don't teach them what we teach our children here. 1 + 1, mathematics, physics, who made what, who invented what. Those things are not for the children. What they teach them is how to live with others, they teach them morals, civic education, who is in charge of what do you do, what your responsibility as a citizen, so that by the time they start studying the academic work, they already know how to live in a community and how to handle one another. And as a result, they tell you the police in Japan has almost no work because people are doing what they're supposed to do. They were all taught. And I imagine if we had UPE and we were teaching people those things, especially from primary 4 downwards, not being too academic only, you would find that we would have a community of people who are civilized and they know how to live with others. But we have lacked that because people start from P1 knowing how to read and write, and they can speak good English, they can calculate everything. But in the end, they don't know how to live with others. They are selfish, they fight, they don't know that people exist and they can live with them peacefully. They think they would have taken that opportunity to tell them we have so many tribes in Uganda and we can live comfortably, we can live with one another respectfully. Those are the things that the values that should impart in children in the lower primary education, and can change the society because we missed it. The people who studied, the generation I talked about that was in school before 1970, the people who were teaching them valued those things and they taught them. You find that when you are dealing with a person who went to school in the 60s, the way he responds, the way he treats, the way he behaves is totally different from the people who went to school in the 1980s and above.
Interesting. Thank you so very much, Evangelist Duchi. And before I take a break, I'm going to engage the callers. I mean, 776-511-426 is the number, is our studio line. And it is also on WhatsApp. You can always WhatsApp us or send you a message there. And you tell us what you think, especially how best can we tackle moral decadence in our societies, in our church, in our communities, and also in this country that we call Uganda. It is very important that you share your perspective and your concerns on this because we do value your participation. And later on, after the break, I'll be engaging with the Father Peter Baka, the priest of Catholic Church coming from Masaka region. And we're going to also be sharing his thoughts on this platform. And I'm taking a very short break. When I return, I'll be reading your messages and also picking your calls on what you think on our topic today. In the studios, I do have a privilege and honor to have the Deputy Inspector General Government, Dr. Patricia Achano-Kiria, and also the evangelist Godfrey Duchi is the team leader, Nile Legal Missions. Ampere Amanuteg is my name. I'm taking a very short break and I'm returning just a bit. I pray you don't go away.
It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about that. Nobody's showing. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero Season 2, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Holy Week, also known as Passion Week, is the week leading up to Easter Sunday, and it's a significant period in the Christian calendar. It spans from Palm Sunday to Resurrection Sunday. According to the Holy Scriptures, Holy Week began in Jerusalem in the earliest days of the Church, though the term first appears in the writings of the 4th century bishops, Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria, and Epiphanius, Bishop of Constantia. According to the Catholic Church, Holy Week is the most sacred time in the liturgical calendar. It commemorates with Jesus Christ the events of his passion, death, and resurrection. During this week, we recall our Lord's washing of his apostles' feet, the Last Supper, the Stations of the Cross, the veneration of the cross, and the lighting of the Paschal candle, all of which help us enter more deeply into the mystery of our salvation. Many countries, including Uganda, observe the somber period of Lent. The public holidays include Good Friday, Easter Sunday, and Easter Monday. By my sins UBC Radio and all its broadcast networks wish you a happy Easter season. Rejoice forever in abound mercy of God.
Do you know the Bible from cover to cover, from Genesis to Revelations? What of studying it systematically? A great opportunity is here. Living Waters Ministry Uganda and Champions Evangelistic Ministries International brings you Through the Bible radio program, teaching the entire Word of God. Join us every Monday to Friday, 12:30 to 1 p.m. as we bring you an in-depth teaching of the whole Word of God, only on UBC Radio, UBC West in Pikahona, and or 0755 066 786. You can also WhatsApp us on +256 783 166 522. God make a way where there seems to be. A family is a group of one or more parents and their children living together as a unit. Sometimes this unit extends beyond the nuclear family to include relatives and grandparents. Every Tuesday night at 10:15 p.m., UBC Radio brings you The Family, a radio show that navigates through family affairs for peace, harmony, and unity. Here on UBC Radio, inspiring Uganda.
It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody showed. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the casual tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero Season 2, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. This is Ground Zero Season 2. Stay tuned. We shall be right back.
Welcome back from that very short break. This is UBC Ground Zero. Indeed, we are live and clear on 5 radio stations covering this program. That is UBC Radio in Kampala, 98.0 FM. In case you are in Arua, we are 97.4 FM. Lila is 99.4 FM. And we're on UBC Butebo. In case you are in Barrio, that is 96.9 FM. Soroti, 98.4 FM. We're also live and clear on Western Nile, radio, that is on 98.4.0 FM. We are also live and clear on Magic 100 FM, and we're also live and clear on Voice of Bundubujo. And the repeat of this program is always on Sunday on UBC Radio from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. and also on Voice of Bundubujo on Monday at same time. It is high time that we know what you think. Send us a WhatsApp on 0776 511 426, or you can call on the same number 0776 511 426 and tell us what you think can be done to tackle the challenge of moral decadence in our communities, especially in this country called Uganda. In the studios of UBC, I have a privilege and honor to have the evangelist Godfrey Ducci, is the team leader Nile Regular Missions, and also Dr. Patricia Chano Kiria is the deputy IGG. And we're also going to be joined by Father Peter Baka, is the priest of the Catholic Church from Masaka region, and also sharing his perspectives on how best we can tackle this challenge of moral decadence in this country, and also looking at their contribution as the Catholic Church. 0776 511 426 is the number you can call and tell us what you think we can do to make sure that we go back to normal, because we have believed and also agreed that we have gone astray and have lost our moral compass. I'm going to be reading the messages but also picking your calls. Let me first pick this one and I know what you think. You're live on UBC Ground Zero. Okay. Call again, and when you call, please reduce the volume on your radio set, because that affects our ears by creating that echo. 776 511 426. UBC Ground Zero. Ground Zero. Okay. Keep calling and trying on that very number. We would be able to pick you up and also share your perspectives on the same. And also send us a WhatsApp on 776 511 426. We shall be able to read your messages. It is important that we get to know what Baka thinks on this very topic and what is their contribution as the Catholic Church. Keep trying on those numbers for WhatsApp at 776 511 426. We are talking about, Father, you are live and clear on UBC radios.
Thank you.
Yes, this is UBC Ground Zero, and you are most welcome, sir. Praise the Lord and happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you already.
Interesting. Today's discussion is centered on the important topic tackling the challenge of moral decadence in Uganda.
Yes, yes.
And we would love to know the contribution of the church in addressing this moral decadence, because we have seen that we have lost our moral compass, and one wonders, where does the church come from? And we have just talked here in the studios. We have the Deputy Inspector General of Governance, IGG, and also the evangelist coming from the Protestant Church. We have talked about the contribution of the other churches, but one wonders, what is the contribution of the Catholic Church, especially in fighting these vices?
Yeah, the Catholic Church, as we celebrate the events of Easter, probably knowledge might be the problem even among Catholics to understand that if Easter were well understood, problems will be addressed squarely, and you have less and less of what we are now lamenting about. That's why you find that in countries like Germany, the Catholic Church and other pastors, they are paid kind of salary by the government, because when they do their work, you have less of those who are thieves, prisoners, become few, because they have committed those sins are brought by the religious leaders. So what you have to do is to make sure that, especially these festivities of Easter are properly understood, and they are not used to just even become worse. So, for example, there is a song which says, "Munaku Jakarima Katumba Africa in Uganda," and it is calling upon people to report their sins. So when people report their sins, to report means they're not going to do this again. So if people seriously report their sins, and especially this time, which is 40 days the troops are engaged, we are engaged in confessing sins. Some other religions, they don't have this kind of practice. But it is very important to know that if somebody confesses their sins, which means we are not going to do this again, people become better. And this same song says, "Nawe mugayavu egamba nti ntumudde soterayo mugusho." You the lazy one, and in Uganda it's called the mugayavu. The mugayavu literally means the mugayavu, somebody who chooses to. You are like somebody chewing ash, and if you are doing much, then you are lazy. And that's even somebody has said that the word rugby Butebo, which election means Muddu, and we are like ash. Muddu, Yavu. Muddu is slave, and even the power you have is Wu. So you have to improve. So this song, which is very popular among Catholics, very late. Now, I'll translate it in English, and you can say, in the 40 days of Lent. So Kalima means, Kalima is in Latin, Quaresma, means the 40 days. So in the 40 days of Lent, because when the Baganda had the going to say Quaresma, which means the 40 days, Quaresma. Then they said they have said Kalima, Kalima. So Kalima means 40 days. And these 40 days are supposed to be rotating around the issue of sin. So today when we talk of corruption, we talk of people doing this and that, we forget that actually this is sin, and we are supposed to fight sin. So among the Catholics, many people are going for confession, and when they go for confession, they are supposed to say, "I'm not going to do this again," and so on. And now, during this time of Easter, there are some, for example, which when I was young, I did not understand well, because for me, I thought that the most important thing to get, even in the church, I thought it was Christmas. Because I see lots of things going on, but not Easter. But when you sing a song, like we say, "Munakuzena ekululu nore chinge kwani katonda tumubire," about Easter, but in all the 6 days, this is the most important. But it looks like it is not as important as Christmas, but the most important. And then we learn that this 60 day of Easter, if you look at it very carefully, it is so important. Why? Because when you look at Jesus, when he came, his main focus was on death. Death. Even these people you see are doing bad things. They are doing the wrong pathway because they fear death. When they fear death, unfortunately, they end up by killing others. They end up by doing this with a particular focus. And then somebody who does not fear death, actually, is easily big win. You have the example of the Uganda matters. You can see what happens after when people gather in Namgongo. Very soon we are going to do kind of Namgongo. It gives an impression which is connected with not fearing death by having results coming after somebody has very courageously.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe further looking at Easter that you're talking about, we have seen so many Ugandans celebrate Easter outwardly, but live contrary to its messages. How does this say about the gap between religious rituals, but also looking at the moral reality in this country?
Those are those people look at this country, but also Africa. You see, when I sometimes visit to schools and I tell the teachers and the students themselves that when you teach somebody something, and this is the problem in Africa, we are busy playing with the curriculum and so on, but the issue is, when you teach somebody, give them a reason why. not only religion, but anything. Why should we do this? So, Muslims, Christians, people in religion, they are doing, this should be the focus, not only in religion, but people know why. Why? I don't know if you are to hear the song, students sing. I don't know the reason why. I don't know. So, there's not many reasons. That's why most of the schools are now surrounded by big walls. They are punishing, the government tells teachers not to punish, but they are keeping on punishing. Why do you punish somebody who has a brain? Because we don't tell them why. Even in religion, if someone does not know why, this is why you see people celebrating on the outside. People becoming hypocrites. Why? Because we don't know why. That question is feared by Africans. Let us begin with educating their children. Don't ask why. Because that is the question which is very difficult to answer. But we are supposed to tell people why. Now, the reason why we are celebrating Easter is when Jesus came, he wanted to address the issue of death. Because there is a saying which says, children fear darkness, the same way adults fear death. So the very way children fear darkness is the adults fear death. So when Jesus came, he addressed this issue of death.
Okay. But Father, I would also want to get your perspective on what do you think about the rising issue of materialism and also the challenge that is posed by technology, especially in the traditional moral teachings in our churches.
No, the problem is that we are on the surface of things. We realize that everybody wants to get the first grade in school and to get the best schools. But who are the people influencing society? The people influencing society are first of all the rich doctors. You don't get first grades, you don't get the best schools, but you can't even anything. People now are going for vote. You can't even go in the first grade, the rich doctors. And then, who else? There are people, when they open a radio and the TV, and we can pray for this, people are going there. And then another group is the singers. Singers are becoming a very important item in Uganda, even as we go to the elections. But they get past the road to become a singer, they don't know about their thing, but they're influencing society. Where are those who come from Makerere?
Okay.
Those who come, where are they? Those who go to school, those who get past the road. This is the problem in Africa, in Africa. People should be trained to use their knowledge.
Well, I also talked about the love of money, materialism in church, that those who give so much are the ones that are given the front seat, especially in our cathedrals, even when we know that they are corrupt. But also looking at the media technology, when you're a father, a reverend, or a pastor, and you realize that there is a camera in front of you, some TVs have come, there is also social media, you tend, sometimes they tend to divert and also go political. We are coming to Easter, tomorrow we're going to be watching on news, people instead of preaching against the immorality and moral decay in societies, most of the comments that are going to be coming out of the priests, of the reverends and the pastors, are going to be political statements. Where does this leave the church?
You see, for me, as the Kalabaka, I'm not normal, I'm not a normal pastor, I'm not a normal priest even. We are supposed to stand on our feet. For me, I do what I had the chance of going to Europe and learning the systems of the religion. For us, we copy the outside, even of religion, the outside, that we're supposed to be deep. That's why I told you, we have to have the reason why. For example, for me, I became a priest, not to make money. People wanted to be rich and want to become a priest. You don't become a priest. You see, either when you are tempted by the devil said, you are the son of man, turn this bread into this son into bread and eat. Why did Jesus refuse to do that? Because Jesus, you cannot use your position as a son of God. You cannot use divine things in order to get They actually change. Then they realize what they say they do in the schools. People from abroad, people with degrees, doctors, they are qualified, they are useless in the society.
Okay.
And those who have not gone to school are the ones getting the pensions. For example, you find people who go for matrimony to get a wife.
Okay.
Who started this business of going with many things? The rich, ignorant, who have not gone to school. And for us to simply follow. To simply follow.
Okay. What is your message to the people of Masaka, where I do believe that they are responsible for their souls as someone that has put there by God?
Yeah, the people of Masaka, when the Catholicism came and was supporting the Protestants, the Catholics were sent to Masaka. That's why Vira Maria became an alternative to Uganda. Even the first priests were ordained there. So the challenge of Masaka is to be original, to continue to be original, to do what we are supposed to be doing. And therefore, take an example to the rest of the Catholic Church, Catholic atmosphere, and because even the first bishop, Bishop John, was in Masaka. And he was the first one to go to Europe with some of the first black people. And he started studying very well, and they showed that the black people can really be intelligent. They became doctors very early in the life of the church. And also, with Masaka people, we are supposed to be taking the faith, not to copy. Because one of the problems, please, let's look at this very seriously. The reason why we go to school is to learn how to copy. Learn how to copy, so that you learn from others. But now schools are telling children don't copy. Don't copy. Why do they want to come together? They wear the same uniform. So we should try to make the people stand on their feet, and when they see somebody who is doing good, to copy that one. And provide to the children, you have to copy. As a Chinese, we are told that the Chinese and the Japanese, but then when they go to Europe, they go there to copy. But our people are going to Europe to be misled. So I'm going to tell my people in Masaka, let us take the place. Take the Gundu. They are the place called the Gundu. Gundu means where people run to do it, to get good things. It's paradoxically interesting that even the NRM, when they passed to for the personal way, in the real triangle. But when it came to concluding their fight, they came to Gulu, to Masaka. Then from there, through Katonga, they managed to capture. So Masaka, we are supposed to continue shooting with the faith, not simply copy. Whoever comes up with something new that on the surface looks very great. Easter means we go east. Otherwise, we can go west, we are negative. To go east, to go east is to be positive, to look at the good things. And the book is like it's morning.
Thank you,
Father. That's when we are negative.
Thank you, sir.
But people should learn to be east, to look at the positive. What is just like this paper called in the morning, it's look at it. If you open a paper called the day, that's going late. Very people will mind.
Thank you so very much, sir. And I'll get back to you if time really allows to answer some of the concerns from our listeners there.
Okay, please. Okay, please.
You may stay tuned, sir. We shall engage you once again. Thank you so much, Father.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
Joining us on the other side is Father Peter Baka, is the Catholic priest coming from Masaka region, and also sharing his perspectives, but also the contributions, looking at the role of the church. The Catholic Church plays especially igniting the fire in the fight against the moral decadence. I'll get back to the studios for my guests to also have their perspectives, but before I go into that, I would have to go through some of the comments coming from the people of Uganda, and also you can also call on 776-511-426 or WhatsApp on 776-511-426 on the same number. Barbara Biribona is saying most media houses give a lot of space to politicians who end up attacking each other than men of God and IGG who would have come to preach against corruption. UBC Ground Zero.
Yes, this is Camille from Bukedia.
You're from Bukedia, all right.
My issue is somebody killing someone over money and carries that money to church. Church welcomes him and pray for him for good work done. I don't think that that's good. Why can't church introduce auditors in the church? Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, we fight for money, one kills and gets the fruits, the reward is taken to the church and it is welcomed with both hands. Someone says we need more educative programs to help us, the listeners and viewers, realize our dreams, but also know that we have lost our way and we need to get back onto the right directions. UBC Ground Zero.
Hello, this is Silas from Palisa.
Silas from Palisa.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
I always appreciate you for the program.
Most welcome, sir.
Yes, thank you very much for that program. Now, when we talk about moral decadence, that one is highly contributed by the family. Because most parents have failed to control their children, hence bring in corruption in Uganda. As the IGG has said, that most people, they are after themselves. They bring in corruption because they are fighting for themselves. They have failed to get the social behavior. And even the churches have failed to help us because most churches, they are just preaching for people to give them money. That means they are money-minded instead of preaching for socialism. So for me, I would just encourage most churches to also contribute in educating people about how they associate. Thank you very much. I remain Cyrus from Palisa.
Thank you so very much and greetings to the people of Palisa. 0776 511 is the number you can call and share your perspective on this program. We are on 5 radio stations covering this program, but also streaming live on YouTube. You just put UBC Ground Zero, and you can as well share your perspectives on WhatsApp on same number 776 511 426. Jamila, you say on our WhatsApp that most of even you, the media, have a role to play. Some of your programs have some adult content, and which is not good for broadcasting during the day, which is inappropriate for minors, and that also promotes moral decadence. Someone says some televisions have gone overboard by their content, which doesn't align with our culture values. That is Ariho. 776511426. Share your opinions, and also for my guest too. The IGG should end up happening in local governance, especially service delivery, even at the level of the sub-county. They should stretch their roots to reach out. Even the parish, you can't imagine how much we have lost in parish development model. This is Brenda. You're listening in from Paida. All right, this is UBC Ground Zero. Allow me to go back to the studios of UBC for my guests. That is Godfrey Ducci and also Deputy IGG Dr. Patricia to answer some of these concerns. And also, according to Baka, says that perhaps in other countries we can also adopt the same by paying church leaders. Government should pay them because that will reduce the materialistic and also welcoming this the bad money, if I can call it, the evil money that comes through, because you know that someone has killed and even the case is in court, but you're giving them the front seat. UBC Ground Zero. Ground Zero. UBC. Okay, call again on the same. I'll give you a chance and pick you. Dr. Patricia, and then I'll come to you, Dochi.
Thank you very much, Amon, and I would like to thank the listeners on Ground Zero this morning. Barbara did hint on the issue of men of God being given the front seat, and then Kamia in Bukedia says, when people kill each other over money, that money is welcomed in the church. How can the church know if you have not come out as a whistleblower to report? The church will basically welcome that person. And I don't think the church structure has got the issue of audit to audit all the parishioners, where they're coming from and where they get their resources from. But perhaps that is very good for food for thought. We could think about that so that we get to know our parishioners better. We make sure everybody registers, we get to know their backgrounds, what they do, and so on. We need to encourage more of educative programs in order to get the right direction. I agree with you. And even Silas again talks about moral decadence, is building on my point. It's good that fighting corruption must also be in the churches and encourage churches to do more of educative programs, which are already happening. I see Church of Uganda has been having a number of retreats and camps for young people, basically to inculcate in them these values and moral principles. Media has a role to play. Yes, media sometimes does publish inappropriate programs, and I think that is also very good, positive criticism for the media to take on. And Brenda says we should go to the community. Yes, I agree with Brenda. We're thin on the ground. We need to spread our wings all over. The Inspectorate of Government, we only have 16 regional offices in the countryside, but we need to make our presence more felt in the community. We have been to some communities which have the refugee hosting communities, where we have trained community monitoring groups to be our whistleblowers, to monitor government projects and programs at the grassroots and report to us. But going back to our core message, the crux of the program is to foster that hope and renewal and take citizens away from the lamentation, because Easter basically is to bring us a message of hope and renewal and remind us as individuals that positive change is possible. Chisoboka. We can have a mindset change. We can start anew. And this message is crucial even in the fight against corruption, because it inspires perseverance in the pursuit of justice and ethical conduct. And therefore, it's a reason we're encouraging citizens to build in the possibility of a fair and just society which can galvanize collective efforts in the fight against corruption. The principle of self-sacrifice, as illustrated by Jesus, clearly influences these family dynamics, especially during this Easter period. For instance, if we are to model selflessness, Jesus' act of self-sacrifices teaches the family members the importance of putting the need of others before our own. We talk about corruption happening as a result of selfishness, where you have the bribe, the giver and recipient who are both willing, and they do their bribery behind cameras and it is hidden. But later on we get to discover when one of the giver or the recipient is affected, then he turns around and says, I'm the whistleblower, I've come to report the other. During Easter, families were encouraged to reflect on this value of selflessness, modeling selflessness and encouraging each other to engage in acts of kindness and service. And this modeling of selflessness basically helps to foster an environment where we understand each other, where we cooperate with one another, where we collaborate. We need to build bonds as well. When family members embrace self-sacrifice, they are able to demonstrate love and commitment to one another. This love and commitment can spread to the neighborhood. Acts of selflessness, such as prioritizing family gatherings, helping each other in times of need, forgiving. We have seen families fighting each other, where siblings do not see each other eye to eye. Either they are jealous about each other, either they feel bad, either they are not, there's lack of unity. So this Easter season, we need to create deeper emotional connections within family, and this love should spread to the neighborhood. This strengthened bond can enhance communication and even mutual respect among family members, which basically leads to healthier environments. We need to create a culture of giving Someone has said the church is now making money. The church must have this tithe and collections and offerings, first of all, to take care of the leadership and also to build and do developmental activities. Churches are getting squeezed without sitting space, and we, the parishioners, have a duty to build bigger structures. Easter provides a platform for families to practice self-sacrifice through charitable acts or community service, engaging in these activities together not only honors the spirit of Jesus' sacrifice, but also it instills the value of generosity and service in younger family members. And this shared focus on giving nurtures that culture of empathy and also service within the family. We need to also promote conflict resolution and encourage reflection and gratitude, because Easter prompts family members to reflect on their own lives and the sacrifices made beyond loved ones. And this reflection can basically build on that culture of gratitude, which can enhance the emotional well-being and also strengthen the family responsibilities. So for me, as I conclude, I think the principle of self-sacrifice, which was illustrated by Jesus, is profoundly impactful, especially in family dynamics during Easter, because it helps to foster selflessness, it helps to strengthen bonds, it creates a culture of giving, and it also promotes conflict resolution and instills values for the next generation and encourages also reflection on gratitude. So by integrating these principles in our Easter celebrations, I believe that families can be able to cultivate a loving and supportive environment that basically resonates with the true spirit of Easter among the families and among citizens out there. Thank you.
Dochi?
Yeah, I agree with what my sister here was sharing. And with regarding especially those scholars who feel that the church has been receiving money from people who have murdered others, sometimes it's a little bit tricky because as a church, you don't do the work. They are not investigative as the IGG does. The IGG has the power to go and find out where is the source of the money, how was your income. So the church only receives everyone, and the church is a place where both the people who are righteous and those people who are sinners gather to have communion with God, and the church receives the money. And like anyone else, we love money and we need money for everything. And the challenge we are having, especially in these days, is where people you cannot tell where the money is coming from. But you know, one thing that I'm assured of is that God knows where the money is. When you bring your money to church, even if you have killed, don't think you are off the hook. You have to sort it out with God, either now or in the future. So you should be sure that if priest doesn't know where the money has come from, he will only receive the money, but you are accountable for your action. Secondly, we are in a global, there's what they call globalization. We have with the rise of internet.
We live in a global village.
And we are now so interconnected. Like the people we are talking of the TV, that you people on the TV, social media, and the televisions, you are broadcasting things which are not supposed to be seen by children, and you cannot control them. It's true. I realized I moved a little bit into the rural areas where in Kavera Maido for some time, in the villages of Kavera Maido and Buko, Amudat, and then Soro, and I dealt with young people. Like she was talking, my sister here talked about the Church of Uganda holding conferences for young children, for the students and vacation. And there's another group called Scripture Union. They also have conferences, and we met those people from those areas. But one thing I realized that the more you go in deep villages, the children there, their behavior and whatever they do is totally different from our own people here in the cities of Mbale, Kampala, Jinja, Kabale, Mbarara. They are totally different. But when you go in the villages, because those children are not yet exposed to the wickedness that we have here with our internet. Now, with the rights
the children that would call the disadvantaged.
Yes,
they are the ones who are advantaged.
They are better. I told my son who was with me when we were in Kavera Mind, I said, oh, these children look so innocent. The society is so traditional. There was that love that she was talking about while they were caring for one another. The mother goes to dig and leaves the child with whoever is in the nearby, and they take them and give them food. And I was like, this is what a society should
But
do.
in town here, you may not risk leaving your child with the neighbor.
Here we tell them, don't get close to anyone, don't talk to anyone, don't allow anyone, don't eat anything from anyone, because we are dangerous. And things have changed here. So, but those other areas, people are different. But with the modernity, the things that are done here are being exposed to them. Children are watching things that adults should have watched. And so you cannot tell whether your little girl here or your little boy is as innocent as he looks. So this is where we cannot stop it, because it's not only here in Uganda where these things are happening. Globally, things are changing. The morals globally are changing. The only hope we have is that if we as parents, we can take responsibility for our own children, we can save the nation. If we can, as parents, or anyone who's a parent or grandparent, you can sit with your children and teach them what is right. That is actually the biblical. From the beginning, children were supposed to be taught by parents. They were supposed to learn from parents. The first school you are supposed to learn everything is from your mother and your father. I was counseling a certain couple that is getting married, and I was saying to them, there's no school of marriage. And amazingly, the only school of marriage is your father and your mother. Whatever you saw them do is what you will end up doing in your own marriage. Because when you look at marriage, you look at your father and your mother and what they were doing, whether it was bad or good. So parents, be example, because those children, if you have domestic violence in your home, your children, the children and your grandchildren will grow up in that, and they will think it is normal and acceptable for a man to slap his wife or for a woman to slap her husband. So those are the things we need to learn, that we pass it on to the next generation. We are not having
where
children.
Did we leave the element of spare the rod and spoil the child?
She had talked about it here, the laws that are coming in. Some countries, you punish a child, you call police. Even you threaten the child, he calls the police. I'm glad here we haven't started doing it, but
we're going there.
We are going there. They call police.
If they empower children to report such cases, especially at school, for what is happening at home.
Yes. Yeah, child abuse. We call it child abuse. Even when you threaten a kid and you feel threatened. In America and in Europe, police will come in and take away their child from you. They say you are not good in parenting, so this child should be taken to people where they think it is safe. And we have allowed all those things, the rights.
How can we then put a distinction between disciplining my child and also abusing the child? Child abuse.
Of course, we have child abuse, which is real here, where they are torturing children because of their issues, mental issues. I think the parent has a mental problem and he gets a kid and vents out the anger he has in his heart and against a kid who is innocent. But the discipline is biblical. We need to know the child you discipline, but you don't discipline a child by beating. Beating is not what I recommend. There are many other ways of disciplining a child, and it feels you loved, but you sort out. I used to do that with my own children. Sit with them and talk to them.
You didn't beat them.
We never beat them.
How about the spoiling the child with the spoiling the road?
No,
sparing the road.
The road is needed when it is extreme, but there is a time when children will talk to them maturely, respectfully, and they understand.
Okay, but also before I leave you to Dr. Patricia, our national values, culture values, societal values, because the more we welcome everything and instead of promoting our cultures, it is eroding these cultures. Are we not losing it all? Duce?
I thought you were asking my sister here. No, we don't. The values are important, and I think we are going to. They're important, and culturally, I think like Father was talking about the problem, we are copying everything from abroad. We are copying everything people are doing, and we are copying all the bad manners as well. And that's why we are losing it. But if we valued what our parents passed on to us, it comes when it's a bit late. But I realize that there are so many things that are weird, and they appear weird to me because I was brought up in a society or community or by a family that taught me to do things in a different way. And I think if I pass on those to my own children, and you did to your own children, and everyone was doing the same thing, would change. That's why I say in a transformation, even values. What are we standing for? I have found people, families that have values, and they have their moral mission, like a mission statement as a family. They say, for me as my family, this is what we stand for, this is what we believe. We are not going to be convinced by what comes out of the world to influence us. We are in a generation where people imitate everything they see. And so, and that's why people are stealing, because they want to be like their neighbors. They want to eat chicken like their neighbors. They want to do this, and it's becoming common. But if people told them you can save, you can struggle, in the future you'll be a better person.
Okay, interesting. Jimmy Opalot says, I'm thankful to God that Uganda stood on its feet and rejected homosexuality, and that was very good for our moral uprightness. I am wondering if with these old cases of immorality that we have in our country, if we added that one, where would we be, and where would be the future of this country? How I pray that we continue with this kind of promoting morality at the national level. This will come down to the ordinary Ugandan. Thank you, Aprote. All right, I come to you, Dr. Patricia, especially looking at Easter. Now we are coming to the tail end of our discussion. Time is not really on our side. I would love to continue with this discussion more and more. Yesterday it was Easter Friday, today Saturday, tomorrow Sunday, and Easter Monday. But looking at some significance of Easter, if Uganda was to be crucified like Jesus and also be resurrected, leaving behind moral decay and rising with new values, what are some of the three, if I can get from you? And also I'll put this to you, Dochi. What are those three things that we must bury? And at least three things, according to you, that we must resurrect as a country.
Thank you very much, Amon, for bringing a very, very well thought out question. For me, I think the things we must bury is this whole decadence which causes corruption to happen, because we have said corruption happens because of degeneration of values. And if we are to tackle the challenge of moral decadence in Uganda, I said earlier on, it is a shared responsibility that requires collective commitment and action. So as leaders, as educators, as families and citizens, we must first of all unite to promote one values and instill that culture of integrity and inspire future generations to uphold the moral standards that define our nation. Secondly, I think it's important for us to tackle the issue of the mindset change as we do the integrity campaign, because I see that if we handle this jointly together, we can build a Uganda that embodies the principles of respect, accountability, transparency, and anti-corruption, that embodies the principles of respect and ethical conduct and ensures a brighter future. Secondly, I would encourage the aspect of instant communication. We have seen families degenerating because of lack of communication. We just mentioned IT tools such as smartphone or whatever. You find the family seated together, but every person is on their own gadgets. So I think families can use technology to create forums for discussing values, rules, and expectations, but there should be discipline. There should be proper guidelines. We can use these gadgets for learning, but we need technology that shares experience of learning through educational games, interactive learning, and so on. And then also encourage family bonding. IT enables families to create and share digital memory through social media, but we should not allow these gadgets to separate families. I visited a family once, and then with several other people. And then when they gave people the password for Wi-Fi, everybody went on his own phone, and communication stopped, came to a standstill. So what is this that IT is doing to us, that the digital era is doing to us? Thirdly, if we are to crucify Uganda, I think we need to begin reflecting more on the significance, the unique opportunities to explore how the values embedded during this Easter season can intersect with the fight against corruption in Uganda. Can we emphasize more on self-sacrifice, on integrity, and accountability and responsibility? Can we build trust in government? Because most citizens today are into lamentations. Can we have educational initiatives, understanding the significance of Easter, which can inform educational initiatives aimed at promoting ethical behavior in the society? Because if we inculcate these values in people, if we incorporate these teachings from Easter into training programs for public officials and community members, it can reinforce the importance of values in governance. And this can lead to conscious and deliberate efforts in combating corruption. So we need to treat corruption with medicine, which is based on the principles and Christian values. And this will foster a hope and renewal, because Easter brings a message of hope and renewal, and it reminds us that positive change is possible. Chisoboka, we can change the mindset together. And this, for me, I find it very crucial in the fight against corruption, because it inspires perseverance in the pursuit of justice and even ethical conduct, and it encourages citizens to believe in the possibility of a fair and just society that can galvanize collective efforts and create a corruption-free Uganda. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me give out a last caller chance. Ground zero.
Good morning.
Very good morning to you. Your name and where you're calling us from, sir?
I'm calling from Golobi. I'm called Anthony Emechu.
All right.
I'm hearing people talking about corruption, mindset. You know, Uganda is a bit spoiled in a way that when they get people who are corrupt, when they get a person who is poor, he has corrupt, he has got to have corruption in the way he works, that person can be arrested and be taken to jail direct, straight away. But if you get in the hands of rich people,
the big fish,
you can even see the example of this Mabati kind of ritual person will be taken to those ends of Karamaja. Many people have been counted their names, or their name have been mentioned, but nobody have been served in a jail anywhere. So corruption,
but
the
government is there.
Yes, but how about others? So corruption to look out proper in Uganda. If they get you a rich person, whether you are rich or not, if you are corrupt, you are corrupt. You have to serve in jail. Then corruption will be reduced. Okay. But if not that, it's very difficult to reduce corruption and mindset of people, the society. We might talk, but at least you try to let the government try to sensitize people. Plus, all because people have been born in a corrupt country with a corrupt government, like some of us.
Okay.
We have been born in this government, and we have seen things happening day and night. You see. So what I can tell my people who are there, yes.
Okay. Thank you so very much, sir, for your perspective. Time is not on my side. I'm giving you some time, Duchi, to give your way forward and also your parting shots. And I would also put the same question to you. What are some of the 3 things you would love us to bury as a country, but also the 3 things that you would want us to resurrect in this Easter as a country?
Thank you. One of the things, of course, I believe as a country we should change our attitude and mindset. Like first of all, respect others. think about your actions. Whatever you are doing, if it is not beneficial for other people, don't do it. If don't look at self-centeredness, selfishness that we are talking about. Because me, I have not been cheated by government officials directly. I found corruption in our markets, where you go to buy things and you find you have taken half of what you have paid for. Where you find when you are not watching what they are packing for you, they will give you dust. We are buying charcoal, you find they will give you dust because you sent for it instead of charcoal. Where you are buying mangoes and you find that all the rotten ones were put in the bag because you did not select it. And the person does it because you are not observant. That is corruption. So our people, they don't do, as Christians, we are not doing the right thing. Where you think you do the right thing for everyone, do what is right. That is integrity. Don't say because he's not seeing me, I can cheat him. Because he has not come, I can send him what is not right. Because no one is seeing me, because there's God, and whatever we are doing will be judged. Like the one who mentioned about the person who brings money in the church and they're stolen it, God will judge you. You don't buy salvation. Jesus paid the price. So there's no more price to pay because of what you have seen that you are buying the church, you are putting in. It is your sin that needs to be corrected. We'll correct it with God. As a country, I would think we can start. We may not expect everyone to change to discipline their children or to teach their children the right way to go, but begin with your family. Begin as a father. What you do, what are your children learning from you? As a mother, what are your children learning from you? Don't teach your children to hate, to steal, and to be like others. That's where we're getting a problem. You say, don't so and so, don't you see they are now doing this? Don't you see they are doing this? It's like we're encouraging them to do what they cannot do. The young children are being pressurized to get things home like the other people are doing when they are not even earning, and they go stealing. And when they steal, you don't have a job, you bring this home and you are praised. You are already, that's corruption, and you're encouraging wrong things, and you are teaching your children the wrong way. As a nation, we should have these values. Work hard. That's what they tell us every day. Work hard. Whatever you're doing, get money, but get clean money. The Bible tells us that God will bless the work of your hands, not the work of stealing and killing and leaving people grumbling and crying and bleeding and dying because you want to make yourself rich. We should respect one another. Those are the things I really would tell people. And we should really, this business of competing with the world, you cannot race with everyone and be where they are. Some people have worked for 70 years to reach what they have, to get what they have. For you want to get it as soon as you get the job. It doesn't work. Some people, sometimes the IGG is talking about these things, but I imagine there are people who have inherited a lot of wealth from their grandparents. So when you come in and you see him driving an expensive car and you want to begin to be like him, you will cheat. But let's be able to do what we have and be contented with what we have. Work hard and it multiplies without doing what? Doing engaging ourselves in the things that are not good for our country, for ourselves and even families, because for every wrong thing we do, there's a consequence. And as a nation, it's not yet over. Sometimes we live like God does not exist. Countries have countries have been from generations have been wiped out because of the evil they do. All these things we are doing will get judged. The country can be judged, and we get back to revival where I say we sinned to God, now we want to come back to God. We better do that before the terrible thing happens. Yes.
Interesting. Parting shots and your concluding remarks, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Amon. I would like to first of all thank my colleague, Duchi Godfrey, and Reverend Father Barker for the insights they've shared today. But to the listeners out there, I would encourage them to look at the significance for Easter, which extends beyond even spiritual observance, because this is a time for us to do self-reflection where we have done things wrongly. It's time to put things right. It also provides valuable insights, especially in promoting integrity, self-sacrifice, accountability, and even the principle of self-sacrifice as it was illustrated by Jesus significantly touches on family dynamics, especially during Easter. I encourage people to promote humility out there And in promoting humility, you find that you'll be able to achieve a lot. We need to embrace these values, Christian values and principles, as individuals and also as government officials, and work together to foster transparency, accountability, and anti corruption. And ultimately, this will contribute to a more just and equitable society where everybody would love to live in. Thank you very much, and may God bless you. Happy Easter and happy festive season. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you so very much for making it a point to come through and educate the people of Uganda on this platform, UBC Ground Zero. Dr. Patricia Chan, Deputy IGG, and also Evangelist Godfrey Ducci, team leader, legal missions. And it is always a privilege, and also Father Peter Baka, the Catholic priest from Masaka that we had online. We are always privileged to have you come through and educate the people of Uganda at UBC Ground Zero, and we cannot take that for granted. The time you sacrifice, all the resources that you put in just to come and preach the good gospel to the people, and I do believe that so many people who have been part of us from the other side of radios have picked a leaf from our discussions and conversation. We are in the middle of Easter celebrations and Easter holidays. I want to join all the voices to wish you, our dear listener, a very happy Easter to you and your dear members of your family, community, and also Uganda in general. As we celebrate this season, I pray that we renew our hope and also looking at the resurrection of Jesus. May the spirit of Easter inspire all of us to reflect on our values as a country, actions, and also as individuals, and also as a nation that we call home and we call Uganda. Let us be a time to recommit ourselves to what is right and just, to make sure that you develop Uganda together, as URA always tell us. Like many societies today, face a number of challenges of moral decadence, a decline in honesty, also looking at respect, responsibility, integrity, all put together, we can rise above and also build a better Uganda. Fight corruption at your level and how best you can. Use these phones, record. If you see someone taking a bribe, just get onto your camera on a record, put it on social media. The office of IG would be able to get all these evidences. But we can also name and shame. In that way, we'd be able to fight corruption, but also build our communities. Don't say Vinkwatira Koa. Don't say I don't mind. Don't say this for people in government. No, we all have a role to play in addressing our societal challenges, in our challenges that we face as a country. Let us fight moral decay by choosing truth over lies, discipline over disorder, and also looking at unity as the people of Uganda, from Koboko to Kisoro, from Busia to Paida, border to border. Let's join our hands as we celebrate this Easter. Let's be reminded that we are Ugandans first, and everything that concerns us concerns all of us. You can't say it is for the Kampala people. No, it is for you, the people in Kabera Maido. It is for you, the person in Teso, in Kore, in Tigis sub-region. Let's all come together and fight these cases. I saw someone driving onto the other day on social media. How can you drive on someone? Really? How can you kill your neighbor's child? Why would you poison your neighbor's child, your friend's child? Why would you kill? Why would you uh, do anything that you think it is bad? Well, that is from UBC Ground Zero team and the guests that we had in the studios today. And we wish you all the best. We wish you a very interesting Easter holiday. Keep celebrating it with your loved ones. I can see still people calling in. Time is not on our side, and time for Ground Zero is over. We hand over to you to all the other programs that are coming your way in UBC Butebo in Eastern Uganda, UBC Western Nile in Arua City, UBC Magic 100 FM in Kampala, Voice of Bundubujo, and here on UBC Red. For God and my country, I'm Pere Amon Optega. Allow me now to sign out.
This That was Ground Zero Season 2, a production of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, UBC, inspiring Uganda. It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about that. Nobody showed. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the casual senior system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero Season 2, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. This is UBC Radio. Tune in for news.
At UBC Radio, we bring you Uganda's latest news and information.
Focus on Parliament.
What we need to do is to Prime Minister must give us the position before we finalize the budgeting process.
Enjoy sports. The environment. Politics.
The mission we have is socio-economic transformation.
Health. Entertainment. Updates in education. On the farm. Keep tuned into UBC Radio, inspiring Uganda.
Holy Week, also known as Passion Week, is the week leading up to Easter Sunday, and it's a significant period in the Christian calendar. It spans from Palm Sunday to Resurrection Sunday. According to the Holy Scriptures, Holy Week began in Jerusalem in the earliest days of the Church, though the term first appears in the writings of the 4th century bishops, Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria, and Epiphanius, Bishop of Constantia. According to the Catholic Church, Holy Week is the most sacred time in the liturgical calendar. It commemorates with Jesus Christ the events of his passion, death, and resurrection. During this week, we recall our Lord's washing of his apostles' feet, the Last Supper, the Stations of the Cross, the veneration of the cross, and the lighting of the Paschal candle, all of which help us enter more deeply into the mystery of our salvation. Many countries, including Uganda, observe the somber period of Lent. The public holidays include Good Friday, Easter Sunday, and Easter Monday. UBC Radio and all its broadcast networks wish you a happy Easter season.
This is UBC Radio. Tune in for news.
At UBC Radio, we bring you Uganda's latest news and information.
Focus on Parliament.
What we need to do is the Prime Minister must give us the position before we finalize the budgeting process.
Enjoy sports. The environment. Politics.
The mission we have is socio-economic transformation.
Health. Entertainment. Updates in education. On the farm. Keep tuned into UBC Radio, inspiring Uganda.
Literature Review is rooted in the past, resounds in the present, and moves us into the future. The Journey on UBC Radio. From Julius Ochwinyo to Susan Chiguri to Jack Mapanje, join us on the journey as we take you into the lives of various writers in the world of literature. The Journey on UBC Radio.
Good afternoon, listeners. Welcome to the Journey program, your program that is dedicated to the world of literature, where we comment on all genres of literature, call it the plays, the novels, short stories, fiction and non-fiction, every Saturday from midday to 1. With me, host Gobi George, together with
Eileen Immaculate Akelo.
Eileen Immaculate Akelo. Welcome to the Journey program.
Thank you.
How have you been?
I've been good.
So what have you been doing the Holy Week?
The Holy Week?
Mm-hmm.
I've just been nothing much, but, just being home doing some housework like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this being a Saturday and tomorrow is Easter Sunday, do you have any plans for Easter?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go for prayers, have a good meal with my family.
That's quite interesting. Are you inviting me?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the Journey on UBS Radio. Now, this being a holy week, it's about story time. And this time around, we're going to go back to oral literature. One of my favorite genres in literature. What about you, Eileen?
Yeah, it is good because actually oral literature started from way back. Yeah. So I feel like it is actually, it has significance. Yeah.
Yeah, oral literature, like the word itself, it's oral, it's word, the spoken word. Those stories that are passed on by the way of the word of the mouth. And we've got many forms of oral literature like we're going to discuss or you're going to share with your listeners. But it being it's Easter week, we are going to look at some Easter stories. Ellen, do you have some Easter stories?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So before we go into forms of oral literature, let's first hear the story that Ellen has for us, the Easter stories.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the crucifixion of Jesus, and this is based in the Bible. It's not like these other books I've been reading to you.
Yes.
So here it goes.
And remember, Jesus was killed on Friday.
Yeah.
And of course, he's going to...
And yeah, I'm going to actually start from his story where he got to die for our sins.
Yes, that was yesterday on Friday.
Yes.
Okay.
So after being betrayed by one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. He was brought before the Jewish council, then handed over to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, who found no fault in him, but was pressured by the crowd to have him crucified. Jesus was mocked, beaten, and crowned with thorns by Roman soldiers. They forced him to carry his own cross